Do you ever meet somebody and you start having a conversation with them and it almost gets frustrating because there's so much stuff you want to ask them, but you can't get all of the questions in, you can't get all the information out of them? That's how I felt today talking to my guest, Scott Millar. He's with IT Rockstars. He is IT Rockstars. And Scott talked all about webinars. I didn't know what we were going to really go into when we started, but this guy's like all in right now on how webinars are a really cost-effective and super high leverage way of getting affordable leads coming in. But once we started getting into the weeds, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to talk about. How to write the hook and how to make the subject matter really good, how to get people registered, what tech stack to use, what audio video setup to use, how to increase your confidence, how to get over your fear of public speaking. Luckily, he's got a book that we talk about a little bit at the end of the interview where he goes into all of the details that is out now. So I haven't gotten to read that book yet. I'm probably going to be reading it right around the same time that you get your hands on it. So I can't wait to learn more about that. But for today, let's get into all we need to know about webinars. Let's do it. Scott, thanks so much for joining me today, man.
Cool. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be of assistance. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you were just saying before we started rolling, it's blizzardy and snowy and wintry over where you are.
Yeah, we've had like 2 or 3 feet of snow, so it's quite unusual. It's mainly usually rain.
Tell the wonderful world that they haven't clued in from your intonation where you're joining us from.
So I'm based in Huntly in Scotland. There's a little town in the northeast of Scotland. So yeah, maybe a little bit different to where you are, man. But I work with so many US-based MSPs, so it's like most of my client base. So
right,
it makes sense to be on your podcast.
It does, and I mean, everybody who I know who talks about you is in the United States. I don't know that many people in Scotland. I've only talked to a couple of MSPs in Scotland, couple in Ireland, but usually even the ones in Ireland are usually servicing England, you know, is because of the size of the market there. But why don't you tell the listeners for a second a little bit about what you do, and then I want to get into some ideas. We're in our lead gen series, and you've got some really interesting things you've seen work for people for lead gen. But tell the people a little bit about what you do and sort of why you're here.
Okay, cool. So I'll give you a little bit of a background. I've been prior to running IT Rockstars, I was like in break fix, computer repair, went into MSP as a senior systems engineer for multiple years. Looked around the room like, I need to start doing sales because I'm not going to make it being technical. So I went into sales, and then I thought, hey, I can run my own MSP. So I did that in 2016 for about 6 months. And then that's obviously when the reality hit that being an MSP is actually a lot of hard work. But I kind of already knew that because I helped the other one grow from like 3 guys up to 30. So I thought, okay, I like an easy life, So what's the big problems that I've got in the sales for MSPs? And I thought, let me just turn that into marketing for MSPs. The biggest pain point I had was like, I was finding when I was in front of a potential client or a prospect, but it was actually finding those prospects that were looking for IT services or were unhappy with their current provider. And like a lot of MSPs, I was technical in nature. Sales was very awkward for me. And not just that pain point of being out there and picking up the phone, that type of stuff. I thought there's got to be a better way. So I had this side gig, which was SEO. And I thought maybe I can do SEO for MSPs. And I quickly realized into about 6 months after pivoting my own MSP into an SEO agency for MSPs that actually SEO is only a little bit of the whole marketing cake and when it comes to managed service providers. So the last 8 years, I've been refining lead generation for MSPs from pretty much an inbound perspective. So I've helped over 500 clients now, US, Canada, Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, you name it, South Africa, running a membership first group here at IT Rockstars. And that system's changed. As I mentioned, it started SEO, went into content marketing, which was really hot. LinkedIn 6 years ago, you could put a post out there and you get people converting it was brilliant, but there's so much more competition now, and there's video marketing. So being through that whole journey, and all of these things have worked, but what's working right now, it's taking me 2 years to actually develop. Well, it's taking me 8 years, but what's working right now for me and my clients, webinars, as I mentioned in the.
Yeah, so let's just get into that right now. So first of all, I'll say that any marketing agency or marketing expert that you talk to who's doing exactly what they were doing 5 years ago, you should not hire.
Yeah, because most of the stuff you can do anyway with AI. So it's like, well,
sure.
why would you hire someone that was doing stuff from 5 years ago?
Well, sure. I mean, but well, there's that. You're right. A lot of the tactical stuff it has changed, pivoted. But my point being that sales and marketing tactics and strategy are very fluid for a bunch of reasons. The simplest way that I've heard it explained is, let me say this. When you're doing outbound, okay, my world is different than your world. Your world is get people to call you. My world was like, nobody's calling me and I have no money and I don't know what to do. So I have to go find them. Now I'm much more inbound focused and much more hybrid for sure. But when I started, it was like, I didn't have those chops, but I did have a phone book and 2 feet. And I was like, oh, let's figure this out myself.
Is this for your own business?
Yeah. And when I started in sales at 18, it was door to door. Anyway, in sales, what we find is that the thing that works is the thing that no one's doing, you know? Yeah. But the thing that no one's doing, you can only do until everybody knows how to do it. And then everyone starts doing the thing that no one's doing. And then the thing that worked no longer works, which is why we find not only is it fluid, but it's actually very cyclical. I find there's these long trends in sales specific tactics. So, a certain subject line will kill until everybody's using it. And then you look at your inbox and that subject line is on every email and you no longer stand out. So you have to just stay sort of ahead of the curve by also a little bit looking at what people did in the past. And so I feel like with marketing, it's very similar. The technology is evolving forward, but even trends are very cyclical. Well, technology is not, of course, but you have this forward motion of this technology changing all the time with these cyclical habits and buying patterns. And that means marketing has to evolve all the time. So what's working today, like if you're listening to this podcast in 2032, there's a good chance this is not a good advice.
Yeah.
All right. But let's talk about what's working today. We are recording this very early in 2026, very early in 26. You're my first interview of 2026, actually, Scott. So congrats. So you mentioned webinars. Talk to me. Let's just get into it. Talk to me about webinars. Why is it working and what are you seeing?
So I'm going to flip this for you. I agree with you on that, the marketing and sales and this cyclical nature, but there's some things that there's nothing new under the sun. I'm sure you've heard that saying before.
Yeah.
And so human nature is one thing, and I'll ask you a question. You might give me the right answer. Hopefully you do. Your clients, your MSP clients, when you go to them and they're looking for that assistance in getting more sales pipeline, improving their sales, do you ask them like how they've got their existing client base?
Yeah.
Okay. And 9 times out of 10, or what types of answers do you get back?
It's always word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Yeah. So it's people they know, it's referrals, it's their business network. Yeah. So our first rule principles, what is word of mouth? What is a referral? What is your business network? Well, it's multiple relationships. Yeah. It's who you know. So the question from a marketing perspective then is, an MSP is like, it's not really about the leads. It's more about the amount of relationships that you can build and trying to scale them up. And that's not going to change for an MSP. I don't think it is. Certainly you can have that outbound sales, but if you are looking to get more inbound and have it's leads, but actually it's more about the relationships, is how you form that relationship, that the trigger that gets you that first intro meeting, how you form that. Webinars is the perfect way to do it because you have 20 or 30 minutes of the room's attention and you can start to build that relationship. You can open the door So that's why I love them so much. And it's taken me so long to kind of come to the realization of this, because it's the same for my business. It's really about the relationships that we're building here. So I get lots of leads in. I know how to get leads in, but it's the right type of leads that I want. It's the same for yourself and your clients. So the best way to do that is actually to form a relationship. And doing that through a webinar at scale allows you to form 20 or 30 relationships, in the course of 20 or 30 minutes, like once a month. So it's like it's an easy win. It's a click of a button. I'm lazy. Yeah, sure, you could go and do it in person. I know you did like a road show, didn't you?
Yeah.
Last year. A lot of hard work.
Yeah, we're doing 5 more of them this year.
A lot of hard work doing something like that, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. You're still young, which is cool.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, and certainly from a lot of the MSPs out there, they just don't have the time to go and pull off an in-person event. So for me, and it's pandemic proof as well. So we have another flu or something happens geopolitically. It's just there's so many benefits to it, I find. And it's, from my understanding, you do webinars as well. So
yeah, no, I mean, you're right. You basically just listed everything we need to know about why a webinar is worth it. We're going to dig into them more. In a minute, we're going to switch we're going to pivot into some tactics. But
there's objections, and I've got some big benefits as well.
Let me grill you on those for a minute. But first, let me say this regarding in-person events. So you're right. I do in-person events. And I think that I don't actually think that it helps in some ways to compare a webinar to like a live training, because I used to think that a live training was just like a very heavy lift version of a webinar. But in reality, you're targeting a very different spot in the funnel, because the people who come to my roadshow, they've been following me for 2 years. Yeah. And now they're like, let me just make sure he's not a total idiot before I actually work with him. So it's usually that's the bottom of my marketing funnel, if you will.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I did not intend that. I didn't have I just was like, let me see what happens if I do this in person. And a buddy of mine happened to be coming to LA, and he was like, hey, why don't we whip together a little thing while I'm in town? Yeah. That's why we did it. And then I went to Toronto, where he lives, and we did the second one there. And then now we're doing more of them. And now all these other vendors are asking if they can join our roadshows. Cool. But a webinar is oftentimes people's first or second impression of me, versus an in-person event is their 13th, 14th, 15th impression of me. So both are critical that's not true. You don't have to do in person. Both serve very important functions for me, but they serve very different things. Now, I'll also say my last in-person event killed. I sold out with 18 people there. That's great. My last webinar had 200 registrations. And I promoted it with, I think I recorded 2 60-second videos, and we made 4, 5, 6 written LinkedIn posts and 2 emails. So how long did that take? 4 hours? An hour, if you're good at it.
If you do that month after month, you're going to get even better at it. You can systemize it, yeah.
So we're talking about how great they are. Before we get into tactically, why would an MSP actually object to this? What are they saying when you say you do a webinar and they say, no, I won't, because? Why do they say that?
There's 3 things. Okay. The first one is they've tried webinars before, and 9 times out of 10, they couldn't get anyone to register for it. Yeah. They maybe don't have the same social media presence as you do. And so it's like actually getting people to actually register onto the webinar. It's really difficult to do that through organic social media and to an email list. So that's the first objection. They say, I've tried that before and it didn't work. Yeah. Or they've got people to register for their webinar, but hardly anyone attended. Yeah. That's the other one. It's like you had 200 people to yours. How many of them actually were there for the hour?
Not 200. Yeah. But yeah, more than 0, but less than 200 for sure.
So that's the second one. It's like, I've tried them before. I got people to come along, but only a few came. And then the third one is actually, the third one is like, there's actually 4 actually. Missed one out here. What would an MSP actually offer in a webinar? What's their offer? Like, what do I sell in a webinar? Like to like these sort of cold prospects that have just registered on. It might be my local marketplace or the industry that I'm supporting. no idea what to sell. So they might have really, really good registration, really good attendance, but then they just don't see an ROI from it. And the fourth one, the biggie, is like, I really don't feel comfortable sitting in front of a camera presenting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fear of, it's like some sort of stat, like people would rather die than speak in public. So those are the four things. Yeah. Those are the four big ones. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah. And we can dismantle all of them, but I'll say that most of the people who have most people who have a fear, they don't need to be logicked out of their fear. You have to like climb your way out of a fear by breaking the fear into smaller fears and then tackling individual pieces of it, you know? So if we go backwards, starting with fear of public speaking, fear of public speaking, I understand it. It still baffles me, however. And the reason it baffles me is that interacting with other human beings is like innate and hardwired into our biology. Like we're tribal beings.
Yeah.
And somewhere something weird happened where people became more interested in what strangers who they don't know think about them than they are in pursuing their own best interests, which is, again, I logically, I understand what's happening there. And it's not like I came out of the womb with a microphone in my hand. The first time,
it was a drumstick, wasn't it?
It was a drumstick in my hand, exactly, right. And I had Pit Viper sunglasses on. No. I remember the first time I did a presentation on a video. It was when I was in third grade. So I skipped second grade. So I was, however old you're supposed to be in second grade, I was in third grade and we were doing this report on these books. And you had to like give a report and they were filming you on a camcorder. Yeah. And I remember I put so much work into it. Yeah. I memorized the whole thing so that I could stare at the camera. I remember I put Post-it notes on the pages that I wanted to turn to, and I memorized the sequence of Post-it notes, and I practiced it hard so that I stared at the camera the entire time, and I never broke eye contact. And I was really excited until then they went and played it all back. And I was literally so embarrassed. I physically climbed under the table and started crying. My whole class was watching the video. Yeah. And I'm like the pipsqueak who's, at that age, 1 year of age difference is developmentally a lot, And so I was younger than everybody. I was also really small for my age. And I was so freaking petrified seeing myself on video. But I think deep down I was still, I was already kind of a performer. Like I want to perform. I'm an entertainer, I like to tell stories at parties and I like to entertain my parents' friends. But the idea of then it being like consecrated in video was so overwhelming for my little brain that it took me a long time to get over that, actually. But anyway, so I say that to say, like, yes, I think I'd be lying if I said that presenting wasn't more natural for me than it is for the average MSP owner. Yeah,
I think you're the outlier here.
Yeah, I think so. But it doesn't mean, let me say it this way, I would hate for somebody to use the fact that I like to present things as an excuse, or to just say that I didn't have to try at all and that everything just fell in my lap with regards to my building an audience and stuff. Like, no, dude, my first several webinars had 0 people on them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the fear, what advice do you give to people who are like, no, Scott, that's not me. I don't do the camera thing.
Well, I tell my own story, just like you've done. Like I was senior systems engineer, as I mentioned. And I realized that, okay, I'm going to have to go into sales. I'm going to have to like step out of the server room, look away from the event viewer log, like put on like a suit jacket and stand up like at a BNI meeting at 6:30 in the morning, hands shaking like this, reading off a piece of paper for 60 seconds, like having to shake people in suits. And just like that whole thing was so difficult to go through. And like what BNI taught me was like actually it's more about rehearsal for presentations. Like if I can rehearse it 5 times in the car on the way over, that really helps. I do maybe at home for my wife the 4th time. She's highly critical of me. She'll tell me exactly what needs to change.
What a great wife. Yeah.
For me, it was like rehearsal. That's like how I got out of it. And because it meant that if I ever stumbled, it was all cued into my brain, my memory.
Yeah.
And I still stumble doing it.
Right.
You were at ScaleCon 2 years ago. You saw my presentation. Maybe.
I don't remember. It's funny you say, you know what, let me say this. I don't remember any stumbles. You remember everything that went wrong. I don't.
So it was like, I said, trying up.
I don't remember. I feel like I remember
the last presentation, by the way. I loved it. I was right at the front and I loved it.
Oh, thanks, man.
With the water, and that was cool.
I poured the water into a funnel I drilled a bunch of holes into and let it spray all over the place.
So so I give my story, but I've done it for 2 years now with my clients. So how we do it with our clients, like I can give tips on like, here's what you should do, rehearse and stuff like that. But the way we do is we flip the script. So like there's one of my clients, I always give this example, Steve down in Texas, TechCom Computers, Wiley, Texas. He told me he just joined the Chamber of Commerce and he was going through exactly what I went through. His hands were sweating, he'd stand up and say something about his business. And then when I said to him, hey, we're doing all of this cool marketing stuff for you, but webinars is where it's at, Steve. And he realized then that if he wanted to change his business, that he was going to have to change himself. So it's going into that whole mind thing. I says, but this, we can flip the script here. You can, as opposed to you having to present a deck, I can take you on as the guest expert. And all you have to do is tell a story. And he had a really cool story about his pharmaceutical client that their local server crashed. All this patient data was on it. And he came in as the hero and he saved the day. So he basically told that story. And he came in as the guest expert. I facilitated it, but it was still his webinar. And at the end of the webinar, like after everyone left, we were still on the call. He's like, really big smile. Because he knew then that this internal thing about if you want to change your business, it's really the blockers in your own head. That's what has to change. So I'm sure there's people listening right now that they're in this place in their business. And they probably know that if they challenge themselves, that it's really going to transform the way that they do things in their business. So that's the story that I always give, Brian. So
let's just keep going on this because we'll get into the tactical stuff in a minute, but I actually think this is the most important part because we can make a case for webinars, but the truth is everybody who's not afraid of doing it knows that a webinar is, if you can get it to work, is super worthwhile. And all the other tactical stuff is useless if these people never get out of their own heads and they don't do it. We could talk for the next 2 hours on just overcoming this fear, and then for 90 seconds on tactics, and I think it would be a better use of our time. We're not going to talk for 2 hours. But because what I find is that education is oftentimes the perfect crutch for inaction. I don't want to do it, so I'm just going to keep learning about it. And I get the dopamine hit, and I get to convince myself that I'm doing it, when all I'm really doing is absorbing information that I'm never going to actually apply, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But somebody who takes action on one simple idea is always going to beat the guy who's collecting great ideas, like memorabilia, but not acting on them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about let me throw some tactical stuff, and then I want to hear more from you too on some of the ways that you've sort of developed that skill or gotten over that fear. Again, for starters, I will say that I am an extrovert, but it's not that extroverts don't get social anxiety or don't get nervous meeting people.
Yeah.
When you do door-to-door business sales and you're a teenager, that's hard. Man, there was a long time, Scott, where I had to actually drink. I had to take a drink at a networking event before I would talk to anybody.
Okay. All the Dutch courage, yeah?
Yeah, I was just in my own head. And then once I have a drink, then you're like, okay, I'm not thinking as much, and I'm willing to ask people questions. We'll get into that. I think we'll get into that more later. I want to do a whole series on building charisma, but because I think it's a science.
I'll be tuning into that.
Right. I think it's a science, and science can be learned. Science can be observed, but practice, that's what Paul Green told me. And I did an interview with him that we lost the audio. So I re-interviewed him later. Yeah. But when I said, how do you get better stage presence? How do you become more likable and charismatic on stage? I think the first answer he gave was preparation, because he's at ScaleCon, Paul was unbelievable.
He had
not only was he a journalist and a radio presenter for a long time, but he's like, I ran this presentation 30 times.
Yeah.
And there's no barrier to entry for preparation.
That's right.
You don't have to have skill to prep harder than the other guy. In fact, you should prep harder than the other guy if you don't have the skill. And if you just read it a whole bunch of times, that will help a lot. Now, another tip I'm going to give on prep, as a former actor, one of the hardest parts about acting is memorizing stuff. And you have to memorize pages of dialogue. And if you're doing it like a play, the school can get sued or can get fined if they change too many words in a play. Like you have to read it the way it was written if you're doing a well-known piece. So my trick for preparation is never put memorization and preparation in short-term memory. Always put it in your long-term memory. And by that, I mean, if you're going to present at any point in the day before 2 p.m., if your presentation is before 2 p.m., do not do a read-through the morning of.
Okay.
Do your read-through the night before.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, if you cram for a test, everybody knows that when you don't study and you cram for a test right before the thing, you go in, the anxiety hits, the nerve hits, your cortisol level goes up, and then what happens is your short-term memory will flush out. That's what happens when your cortisol spikes. So that's why you freeze, because you shoved it all in short-term memory. Like, don't keep it in RAM, keep it in the hard drive.
I like that analogy. That's cool.
So you sleep on it, and then your brain will say, this is not short. I need to remember this. So you prep hard the night before. Morning of, maybe look at the first word or two, but I never let myself do a full read through the day of a presentation.
Yeah.
Unless the presentation's in the evening.
That's happened to me as well. Like, because you're maybe so nervous that you go into it, just before, and it lands worse. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that's the worst thing you can do. And then just trust that it's going to be there. Trust that the lines are there. Like when you go on stage and you're like, I couldn't recount this whole scene right now, but I know that in the moment I'll remember the line. And that's the trick to memorizing, is having faith that you'll be able to recall it. And if you don't have faith you'll be able to recall it, then you compulsively over prepare, or you kind of overwork the dough last minute. So that's my advice for people who want to prep a lot, but don't prep the day of, if you can help it.
I love that advice. Yeah.
So go ahead.
You go. Sorry. No.
Well, I was going to ask, so you've got your guy who, being the MC was too big of a leap. But if you can be a guest and have somebody interview you, way easier. So let's talk about that.
Well. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the biggest one for it. It was still his webinar, still had his company name on it. He was promoting it through his LinkedIn, his, Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts. But because I was taking him on as the expert, and I guess, it's even just like visual cues, things like having a microphone like I'm pointing to right now.
Yeah.
There's an authority there. So the fact that there's this level of authority, and then you're taking on the guest and you want to ask interesting questions, you can take it in all sorts of different directions. So that was probably one of the bigger benefits of it that we weren't aware of when we did it. I was just trying to get him over that hurdle in his head. But just like we're doing now, we're kind of freestyling here on these questions. It makes for a far more interesting presentation. And you'll know this yourself when you're doing webinars and you go to the Q&A. That's always the fun bit for me, is hearing what those questions are and, the answers to them.
And the easiest bit, right?
Yeah.
Really, sitting there and fielding questions is super easy. So would you suggest, let's say an MSP owner or even a sales leader wants to get into the webinar world, but they don't feel like they could shoulder that burden. Why don't they lean on a marketing coordinator or a younger associate in their firm that is more comfortable being on camera, or even a strategic partner? Maybe even a vendor will come on and interview you. Maybe you could get Scott to do it, or call your rep at Datto or whatever and be like, hey, I need you to MC. I need you to join me, and I'm going to be the subject matter expert. We can prep the questions ahead of time. And then you're just going to be like, welcome everybody to the thing, introduce me, ask me the questions, and then read me the Q&A stuff in the chat afterwards.
Yeah.
What do you think of that idea?
No, that definitely works. There's so many different avenues you can go down with it. And you look at who you know. You don't have to go and reach out to someone like me to do this, like the MC for you. But there'll be someone in your business that can do this. Is maybe like the younger TikTok star that's very
Right.
happy on camera and just queuing that up. But going back to your last point about the rehearsal, if you are going to go through with that, there is a level of preparation that you should have in place,
Yeah.
even if you're being taken on as the expert and you're not leading with it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have it, if you're going to collaborate with somebody, especially on a live video, do a run through with the MC, you're saying.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
one.
At least one run through. My big thing is entrances and exits, right? Like practice getting in and out of each section because you know the material.
Yeah.
But where you'll lose steam and where you'll get awkward in a presentation is while you're transitioning topics. So if you're going to practice anything, or if you're going to have a manuscript of anything where you actually like have a specific words that you read, don't sit there and read a script for a webinar, but you can write out your transition sentences. And then you can memorize 3 sentences, for God's sakes. So maybe you start with talking about Windows stuff, and now you're going to move over to talking about AI. And so you just prep the sentence. Now that we've covered the Windows basics, why don't we talk about how AI is making it easier than ever to work from home?
Yeah.
And then you just practice that sentence. And those are like the vines swing, like the Spider-Man web to web transition points. If those are tight and super clean, then all of the other subject matter, you've been learning that for 20 years. You could talk on that at any time.
Yeah.
Getting in and out, and then also punctuating those things, at the end of a section, be like, so this is the summary. And if you don't practice the sort of summary or punctuations getting out of each section, what you'll do is like, you don't know how to land the plane. So you have to keep circling the runway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then you repeat yourself and you repeat it again. You repeat it again.
Yeah,
'cause
you
don't know
don't
how to
be
get
in
out.
there. So like I can power up those vines. I can make them 10 times stronger. So it's not just about you rehearsing what you're going to say, but you can have cues for the audience in there as well. Because you need to be getting the audience's attention every few minutes, be asking them a question, interacting with them. And some of this stuff, like I've only just learned this like in the last 3 months, like what I'm telling you here. Like I wasn't doing that in my webinars. When we start in the webinar, like welcoming people that are coming into the room, asking where they're from, how the weather is, just like basic things like that to make sure that you have the presence of the room and they're interacting with you. So those vines, those transitions, that's where you can plant those questions for the audience and get that interaction.
That's lovely, lovely stuff. And then that's great. Practice doing that. It's important to, you're like emceeing or if you're hosting a live event or something, sometimes you have to prep to hold for applause. So if you like tell a joke, you gotta bank on like, they might laugh. So don't talk immediately.
They might. Yeah.
They might. But if they do, then you have to sit there and stand and let the laugh wash over you and then move on. And so anyway, the reason I'm saying that is when you're live streaming, like the platform we're on right now, this is what I use, and it will go to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn at the same time. Well, there's like a 30 to 90 second delay. So if I ask a question, I'm not going, even if they answer immediately, it's going to take me a minute and a half to see it. So you have to be prepared for that filler time, which is also why the first 2 or 3 minutes of a webinar is like letting people log on.
This is why I'll get technical. This is why I love doing webinars in Teams.
Okay.
And I'll stream it out as well, but my focus is Teams because it's instant. You're getting that instant interaction. And from a technical perspective, a lot of guys and girls are like, oh, Teams, my prospects might not have that. But I'm like, aren't you wanting to attract clients that are already on the M365 stack? They'll be using Teams, like every day. So this is actually from a marketing perspective, this is a really good filter mechanism to use Microsoft Teams. So I'll say this right now, like if you've listened this far, we're like, 30 minutes in or something. Number one thing you can do, take away from this right now, is like go to Teams right now in the calendar, go in the drop down where you can create a new meeting. It says create new webinar. Do it 4 weeks out from now and work back from that date. That's like the action point from this. Okay.
Yeah, just do it.
So I'm totally sidetracking you here, Brian.
I love it. Well, I love that. Let me ask you this question. It's sort of something I'm thinking about. What role have you found that your actual audio video setup plays in the webinar? Like, how important is your audio video setup for your mental preparation, for this impact of the webinar?
So audio is the most important. More than likely, you're going to have a slide deck on the screen. So like we're both on very nice cameras. And I actually put this on because I use a nice camera. I don't usually. I thought I better keep the standard up. So it's really more about the audio than anything else that I'm worried about. And it is about the content and the audience interaction. So we're going back to those transitions and those vines. Another one that you can be doing throughout the webinar. I've only just learned this one. This is like one from Russell Brunson, the ClickFunnels guy, is that you need to be getting micro agreements throughout your webinar. So that's almost like asking statements that they're going to be agreeing with and nodding their head. Yeah. So by the end of the webinar, they're doing this, they're nodding their head the whole time. So it's more about, for me, it's more about the content of the webinar than the technical setup. The technical setup, don't overcomplicate it, especially if you haven't done it. It's like literally just getting teams, minimal viable process. You know, you can go wild 6 months from now, get 6 of them in the can, then start refining with like a cool camera, background, like really nice background light like you've got. So
I love the way that you're phrasing this. Like production quality is never going to replace substance. Don't believe me? Go watch the original freaking Star Wars trilogy. There's an actual cut of us where a stormtrooper bangs his head into the doorway while he's walking, and they left it in the movie. You know, but the story is so fantastic that nobody cares, you know? Now, Industrial Light and Magic was pretty amazing. Like the sound they did really good things there. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, yes, you should never replace substance with production quality. However, let me caveat this and say the other half. It has never been easier or cheaper to make something look and sound good.
Yeah.
Therefore, you really don't have an excuse to look bad and sound bad. You don't have an excuse. Like my whole rig here, I've acquired over time for various projects. And I used to do a lot of voiceover, which is why I bought this microphone, was actually for producing audiobooks. But this is like the #1 podcast microphone. It's called the Shure SM7B. But then I have this $200 box right here, and all it does is make this microphone louder. It's a 10 dB boost, and it's called a cloud lifter. And then I have an audio interface, XLR cable into a cloud lifter, into the interface, USB-C into the computer. And then I have my camera and lens combined is about $1,000.
Okay.
Dude, there are apps that will let you use your iPhone as a webcam.
Yeah, and a lot of the time the iPhone's got a better camera than...
It's better than most webcams are, for sure.
Yeah.
But point is, like, if you're on one of those like smart TV bars up on your conference room and it's AI doing this and making everybody nauseous following you, give me a freaking break. Like, spend $99. You've got $99. Okay. Get a Yeti microphone. It's not amazing, but it's like cheap as hell for the quality. Get a Shure SM58. It's like a $99 dynamic microphone. Or get an Audio-Technica 2020 that will plug directly into USB-A. You don't have to go crazy, but you need to get a mic. You can't have the like echoey, billowy, mic on your monitor. Get a microphone. That sounds good.
Yeah, this one I'm using, it's like 10 plus years old Rode Podcaster. Does me fine. So
yeah,
as I say, the audio is great. Audio is the most important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you know what my lighting rig is, dude? I have one ring light right there.
Mm-hmm.
I have this is functioning as both a rim light and like a set light. So I have a little lamp back here. So that's a smart bulb so that I could control the how bright it is.
Yeah.
That's like a $10 ring light. I turn my overheads off. So I literally have 2 lights. In video production, this is called a key and a kicker. A key light is the lights the subject, and a kicker light will give fill. I just got the angles right, and I got my white balance because I have a good camera and lens, so it looks a lot better. But dude, I didn't spend
It didn't take
I
a
didn't
lot.
agonize over it, you know? I have another ring light that used to go here, but then it just flooded me and I looked too flat and boring. So I got a little bit of the Rembrandt thing happening here with the lighting, which doesn't matter.
That's cool.
One good light, decent camera, use your freaking iPhone. You can do it. It's simple. Buy a $10 mount for your iPhone, use an app.
You do if you're on a Mac, you don't even need an app. There's an option to link
Right.
these two things together. So
So there you go.
yeah.
But point is, yeah, it's never been cheaper and easier to look and sound great. So look and sound great. Okay. You can do it. It doesn't cost that much money. Doesn't take that much time. My whole rig, probably, I don't know, $1,700, which even if you're a $10 million MSP and you want to start getting serious, then drop $2,000. Come on. You spend that at one team dinner at a conference. You can do it. But you don't do that instead of the other substantive stuff. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
To your point, though, if you look and sound great, the amount of people who compliment my Zoom setup, and that's not why I did it, as for making courses, but now I have got it all rigged up already, so I use it for Zoom.
It's very
it
nice.
does come with a degree of authority, don't you think?
It does. Yeah, it definitely raises you. Yeah, I mean, I'm where I am. I'm like in this like whole buffet, so I haven't touched it, but maybe it's something I need to do this year. It's like,
I think you looks cool. You got the brick, the natural stone behind you. You got a good.
You actually have a fireplace here as well. It's not on just now, so but I could use that for lighting.
You could get your rim light, which is what sometimes also called the hair light, the thing that makes you separate from your background. I'm actually very close to this wall, but I look far away from it. Like I'm touching the wall right now. My arm's not fully extended because of a narrow depth of field and a rim light. Anyway, nobody cares. Okay, let's move on. So should we talk a little bit about any of the other technical stack of like how to actually deliver a webinar, or should we let people just figure that out on their own and talk more about how to structure the content?
We can go in structuring the content, and like the biggest objections that I mentioned, like getting people to register, getting the attendance, and then what to offer. They're the big ones. Much bigger than technical setup, I think.
So let's do that. How do you get people to register for your webinar? Okay.
So, Brian, you've obviously got a great social media following in LinkedIn. So I'm not sure how you're doing it, but I have a piddly social media following. Never used to be like that, but there's just so much competition out there, and a lot of my clients, MSPs, that they're talking about cybersecurity and potentially AI and their stack for managed IT services. That can, you put posts out there on LinkedIn, social media, you're up against far more interesting topics if we're truthful about it. So the algorithm's stacked against you, and all the platforms really want you to pay to play. So if you're trying to promote something, they want you to, put some money behind it. So what I've learned over the last 2 years is that you really need to put in a small amount of budget to promote your webinar. So I love, out of all places, I actually love Facebook and Instagram. Now this goes against the grain of MSPs that come to me. They go, Scott, what the heck are you talking about? I am an MSP. I work B2B with other business owners. Why would I be on Facebook? That's where my grandma is and my auntie. I should be on LinkedIn. And I just show them the data that says, actually, you're completely wrong. The cost per lead on the Meta platform is far cheaper, and it's far more targeted because the machine learning on the Meta ad platform is far more advanced than on LinkedIn, where you've got great targeting on LinkedIn, where you can target down on your ideal customer profile, their job title and all that stuff. But Meta has a far bigger data set, and it'll actually work out through machine learning who to show your ad to, who's most likely to click on it, and then who's most likely to actually register on. And that just gets better and better over time. At the point of recording this, internally here at IT Rockstars, I can get an MSP business owner. That's someone it's like a harder niche to find, target.
Yeah, very hard.
I can get them for like $5 to opt in and register onto my webinar. $5 a lead. And that's obviously taking quite a bit of time to get that. But if you're going after like a business owners on a general location or particular industry, it's going to be an easier job for you. You will pay a little bit more to start with, but that will come down over time. So pay to play, put an ad spend behind it. Doesn't have to be much, $300-500 for a webinar. That's going to get you a good registrations. And it'll go far further than just asking your friends to share on LinkedIn.
Sure. Do you have, so I know it's going to vary a lot from a million factors, but do you have any actual examples of having seen people put $300-500 in and how many registrations they get?
It varies. It completely varies. So like I've got some really good results from clients and I've got some terrible results from clients.
Yeah.
And
Give me the bookends. What are great results and what are bad results?
An average is like $10 per lead per opt-in. Okay. And the terrible ones that I saw back in May, it was Canadian MSP, and they were paying $44 for a registration. It was Canadian dollars. I don't know what the exchange rate is, but it just was awful. And what I put this down to, doing this so many times now, is actually it's the topic of your webinar. So if you've got an ad up about a topic, you're going to get far more people to opt in to a topic that's actually interesting than one that everyone's done to death. So this Canadian MSP, they wanted to lead with cybersecurity. They wanted to do a webinar all about cybersecurity. Now, when I was working in an MSP back in 2013, I was doing events in cybersecurity. Now, I do realize that it's like where the revenue is, but if you can frame your webinar, your topic, to something that is in the zeitgeist, a hot topic, you're going to have far more opt-ins and a much lower cost to lead. And that actually will help drive attendance as well. So that's the number one, is the topic.
Right. The topic and the hook obviously is everything. It's actually way more important than the substance, because in terms of getting registrations, that's the first hurdle you got to cross, is making people care about it before they've seen it.
Yeah.
Then the second one is getting them to stay engaged, but we'll get there in a minute. So get them to give a crap about it without knowing your pedigree or how smart you are. You don't have any of that. You've got 4 seconds of their attention to make them care about this. So put honestly, real marketers I find that succeed put 70% of the energy into the hook and 30% into the material.
Yeah.
Because the material's innate. You're leaning on subject matter that you already know. It's more important that people give a crap about you. So 44 Canadian dollars is per lead, per registration, right?
Yeah.
Is what you're seeing on the high end. What about the low end? People who get it $5
to $10. Your average is around about 10. You will probably start around about 20, and that will come down over time. If you're pulling one of these off every month, it's going to come over time. And if you have your registration page, if you have that structured where it's calling out exactly who you want to register, and actually more importantly, who it's not for, the algorithm will work that out in the background. Your ad, use dog whistle copy. So you basically call out exactly who you want to come along to the webinar. So like in my ads, I'm always like MSPs. I always mention at the start, attention MSPs. So attention.
What is tell me, what is dog whistle copy?
So it's where you call out who you want to come to the webinar. So if you have an ideal customer profile, maybe it's accountants, maybe it's manufacturers, you want to call that out in the first line of the ad. And the algorithm will actually take that piece of information and it will go in, like there's all these Facebook groups that we all used 5 years ago that have all of that. It has all that data, and it will just work out exactly who to show the ad to. So that's the first piece. And then in the landing page, the registration page, that's where you can filter. So maybe it's a particular size of business that you're looking for. You don't want to deal with anyone under 10 users. Then you can filter for that. You can basically just say this webinar is not for X, X, and X.
Right.
Specifically. So
that's fantastic.
That'll work to your advantage.
And what I found with a free event is obviously something that's free has you've got a decent amount of no-show rate, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I usually see, when you've got it pretty dialed in up to like 40% attendance, maybe 50% attendance, but I've seen it as low as, 0. Sometimes you get registrations and nobody comes, but are you seeing any averages?
I would go with 25%. That's a good number.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, you're a good looking chap. and you have a far more interesting topic, MSP sales. I think that's
Sure.
much more interesting to our audience than probably lead generation. So
Hmm.
I think that's probably why you're getting that 40%.
Well, and when I also have curated an audience that wants to hear from me, right? So I've got
Yeah.
an opt-in audience over time that's more likely to show up. But yeah, my first webinar in 2023, I had 25 registrations, and one person came and he left in like minute 8, and then I left the rest. The rest of it, I just presented a whole thing to an empty room, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about in a minute. That's not a waste of time, but there's reasons
See,
for doing that.
there's cool ways to increase your registration rate though. Your
Yeah,
attendance rate.
tell me more about that. How do you get more people to actually come that registered?
So you can ask on the registration page, you ask for the cell phone number and specifically say, this is only just to remind you that like the webinar, when it's happening, we're not going to like bombard you with messages. So you can ask for the cell phone number. So that's like one medium text message, a reminder sequence, your SMS reminder sequence, your email reminder sequence. You can also build anticipation to the webinar. So like you can send them a couple of YouTube videos on the big pain points that they have. It can help nurture them and what to expect. That's a few things you can do. You can incentivize the webinar. So you can have some sort of prize or giveaway. I would probably suggest that you do that. You'd maybe mention that once they registered. Don't have a prize or incentivize as part of your marketing strategy, because that will probably attract the wrong type of people to your webinar. So only mention it once they're registered.
It also massively deprioritizes organic traffic. Like on LinkedIn, if you use giveaway or free prize in the copy, they won't even let you boost it.
Yeah,
So
I haven't tried that, but I've only done it once, and I thought, let's have some fun. And like I was giving away prizes, and I'm like, it just didn't work. It was attracted the wrong type of clientele.
yeah,
And it was just the lower end of the market. So there are ways though to get that up. And the one recently so there's all these different tactics. You can use retargeting as well, just to remind them on retargeting ads that's coming up. I have a Power Automation. So when someone registers on my landing page, it goes into Power Automate and they actually get like an actual Microsoft Teams invite into their calendar.
yeah,
So it's in their calendar as well. And like successful business owners live and die by their calendar.
yeah.
So if you've got that calendar entry in their calendar, which so many of the event platforms, the webinar platforms don't let you do. Like you have to go and download an ICS file. Yeah, cool, but it's another step that the person has to take. But having all those in place, and then like on the thank you page as well, like when they register, here's the next step. Here's the next thing you have to do. Download the ICS file and also check out this other cool stuff that I've got. So there is all of these different things you can do. I've got a big list of them. The cool one that I've heard recently, which I have not tried yet, this is from the MSP sites. He calls this the 100% attendance webinar trick. So this is where you get 100% attendance. It's a pull forward script where speed to lead, within 5 minutes of them registering, he gets someone on his team to call them to try and pull forward a sales meeting and also confirm their attendance on the webinar. And he's got a script. I've copied it from him. I haven't tried it yet. I think he got it from Hermosi.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
But that speed to lead, 5 minutes, Zapier connection to my cell phone. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. So I really like that idea. So
I think with the free version of Zapier is when I set up all my first automations, it was super simple. I made an actual Google Calendar event that went to everybody. They got added to the event that I'm on. And yeah, what you're describing, like everything you're describing is critical. Of course, you can set up that whole funnel. Like you realize marketing is like a series of seconds that you've got to win, you know? They register, takes them to a landing page, have a video of you that you record once. That's you like walking through your kitchen and getting a Coke out of the fridge and be like, hey, thank you so much for registering for this. Listen, I want to make sure you remember blank. So if you don't want to wait until the webinar to get this thing, I've got a free download that's below on this page. You can get it right now. Also, if you just want to learn more about if you want to cut the line and actually like get all the resources that we're going to give at the end, there's a calendar link right now. You can talk to somebody on my team today. Just do that.
Yeah. I've done that one where you have like a booking page right there into your calendar.
Yeah, Any of those things are good. Just small wins, small values, a lot of reminders and sequences. To your point, like a salesperson's job is to get somebody to commit to something that they've been putting off and then force them to actually get it done. So they want this information, but they keep putting it off. That's why they don't have the solution that you're offered, that you're dangling in front of them, right? So if left to their own devices, they're going to put it off again. So I actually believe it's a very kind thing to do, to be like, you said you wanted this information. I'm reminding you that it's on Tuesday. And then on Tuesday morning, I text him again. I send an email with a GIF of Michael from The Office saying, "Oh my God, it's happening," during the fake fire drill episode, where he's screaming, going, "Oh my God, it's happening." And I sent him saying, "This thing is happening today." And just stuff like that. Okay, so we're getting people interested. Actually, let me go back. I want to punctuate a number thing that you mentioned. So $20 on average per registration. 25% attendance, which means you're paying on average about $80 to get somebody on your webinar. Does that sound right on average? That's going to go down to under $50 by your third, fourth, fifth time. Relax, it'll get cheaper. But $80, think about this. If you're paying a cold caller $50 grand a year to make dials, and a good cold caller can book, a really good cold caller can book 1 to 2 meetings a week.
Wow.
So you're paying, what's that?
A week? That's nuts.
Yeah, that's what our best can do. On average, it's more like 2 a month. 2 a month discovery calls, that industry average I've found. But yeah, we can get a good cold caller, 50 to 100 dials a day, 50 to 100 touches a day, about 1 to 2 discovery calls a week. But still, if you're paying $25 an hour and you had to spend 40 hours, you can do that math. That's a lot more than $80.
There's the other thing here that you've maybe not thought about, is that these people that register onto your webinar are opting in to hear from you. Whereas your cold caller, where they're listed, they've scraped from somewhere. They don't hear from you again,
Yeah.
Whereas you're building an asset in your business here. So this is not only people coming to a webinar, but it's actually a marketing asset that will have value within the business. So like running ads in Google, where you're paying for a click at $50 or $100, or the cold calls where you're scraping data, or the cold emails, that has no value to it. This does, because you're building this warm opt-in that you can nurture over time. And your grandma might register on Facebook accidentally, or your auntie, which we hear of. And it's like, well, what's your referral program? What are you offering in your email newsletters to people that will never buy your managed IT services? How are you getting them to refer your business? So building that up.
This is, getting an opted-in contact for $20 that you didn't have to buy that source record, that contact record. They said, please talk to me. And they said, I want to come listen to you talk about this topic. Even if they don't show up, you've got a data point. A person was interested in that topic. Will now have some lower barrier to entry, have an ebook, have it downloadable, and email them and go, hey, I know you couldn't make it to the webinar, but I wrote this 1-page guide on blank, insert the hook from the webinar. If it's of any interest, you can have it for free and attach it to the email. And then to your point, just nurture them over time. And now you get to the point where, when I launched the book, I was like, hey, I wrote a book, and I just emailed one time to everybody in my list, and I sold like 75 books.
Cool.
From people who already knew who I was, because I've been slowly, painstakingly creating an audience that's really specific and cleaning and scrubbing it as I go. So obviously we know that the inbound is so much more synergy than outbound, because, by the way, your outbound guy can just make all of his, instead of 50 calls a day to strangers, he can make 5 calls a day to that list.
Yes.
And now it's compounding on itself.
Exactly.
So that's obvious. We know inbound is so huge, but we're getting people to opt in. These are leads. A person who registers to a webinar, that's a freaking lead. It's worth your energy. It's worth calling them within 5 minutes. But I want to talk about what happens if few people come, or nobody comes, or nobody registers. Well, my first webinar, as I mentioned, one guy was there for like 8 minutes and then he left. So it was an empty room. But I recorded the whole thing. Why? Because I was all dolled up. I was already prepped, figuratively speaking. I was prepped to go through this material. Well, now I've got 30 to 45 minutes of video that I could put right into Opus or Descript or whatever. And I think I pulled 6, 7, 8 social media clips out of that.
Yeah.
Each of those clips, transcripts, turned into an article, which I put on a LinkedIn article. Each one of those articles could become 5 LinkedIn Word posts. I literally got like 2 months of LinkedIn posts out of that 30 minutes of video.
It's all repurposed,
which is all repurposed. So you can upcycle. This is the beautiful thing about a webinar is it's evergreen. You can upcycle it, but also I have a webinar now that I recorded that just sits behind like a contact wall, and I run ads to an evergreen webinar. So I'm doing what you're doing, and I think I'm paying $15 or something, $17 per registration, but that is them saying, I want this training right now.
Okay.
And now I've got their contact information, and I can see how long they watched the video. And now I have this contact, and now I nurture them later and go, hey, do you want this other training? Do you want this other training? And my sales rep calls them. And yeah, some of them is random people who are not good fits for me. They're selling solar panels or whatever, but I'm paying, it's evergreen, it's running. I recorded the webinar once, and I'm still getting downloads every single week. I'm getting new registrations.
Okay.
And
are you telling people it's a webinar, like, or are you like?
I call it an on-demand training.
Okay, that's cool.
So I don't tell them it's live. I'm not saying it's not like a re-streamed, pre-recorded that I'm pretending is live. I don't like doing that thing. I go, hey, I have this free training. You can watch it right now. But it's exactly what a webinar is.
Yeah.
It's exact same. I ran it as a webinar 3 or 4 times, got it tight. And then I basically just like took the best of those intros and outros of each section, tightened it down into like 30 minutes. But I had the material all prepped and I knew how to run it. I had the deck built because I had done it as a webinar.
Cool. Okay. I think there's the live element. I like that because there's a nuance with the audience.
Oh, for sure.
Like the Q&A and just the interaction. And this is going back to my point about building relationships.
Yes.
From a live element, that's easier to do. So
right.
I haven't tried the automated stuff or behind a paywall or anything like that.
I totally agree with you. I obviously think that doing a live webinar is ideal. But my point being that if you run a webinar, this is what I tell people when they're like, well, what if nobody shows up? Well, first of all, what if they do? And you get leads.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to quit sitting here bitching that you don't have any leads and you have to call them. So maybe that's what you're really upset about. But what if they don't? Okay, well then repurpose the video and upcycle it. And now you forced yourself, you set a deadline and you made a goal of getting a webinar done. You did it. But my point is that not only can that content be upcycled and repurposed into short form, but you now have a long form asset that has future value for you as well, that exists, that did not exist before. You didn't have you on that topic for 40 minutes, well rehearsed, wearing concealer and a nice suit with a pretty light on your face, whatever. You have this asset now. So even if nobody watches it there, if you're the kind of person who like that is going to be crushing to you, I want you to remember that there's a long tail on these efforts,
There definitely is. I call it, the power audience, because as I say, that list is building over time. There's value in that. But going back to your point about asking that question, what happens if it goes right from growth generators? I went around all the MSP influencers and experts. Brian, I came to you as well. It was back in August. You maybe don't remember it. And I asked you, like, what's your number one tip about webinars? So it's for a book that I've just finished. And Harrison, actually, you had some awesome advice in it. Harrison basically was asking that question. What happens if it goes right? And that was, out of everyone, that one question was like the biggest one for me. So if you are on like the edge of thinking about doing this, as maybe that fear of presenting or attendance or registrations or getting the topic right, which is really important, just ask yourself, what happens if this goes right? And there's so many positives and upsides to it and the negatives. And sure, you will go through this journey. I've been through it. I went through it again in January when I thought, this was back in 2025, I thought, hey, I'm going to promote a webinar. I'm going to have the webinar at the end of January, but I'm going to start the promotion at the start of the month. So I ran like a huge ad budget for the whole of the month. Like hardly anyone turned up. I got tons of registrations. I think I can't remember how many I got, but I've had like 12 people that turned up. And like the biggest lesson that I learned there from doing that, and this is all about learning lessons, because the more you do it, all these lessons will be learned. And I've refined the process in the book. But the biggest one there was like, don't spend the whole month promoting it. Do it over like a week. Do it over 7 days. So that's a question that always comes up. Because what happens is people that registered on at the start of the month, they completely forgot about it, even with your reminder sequence. So it's speed is of the essence, you know? So
that's such a good point. The lower the barrier to entry of your engagement, the shorter time span you have to promote it meaningfully. So if it's free event, really 50% of your registrations would be the last 72 hours. So give it a 2 weeks max on a free event. On a small price paid event, you know, for $100, $50, $200 event, 4 weeks max.
Oh, you can get away with much more paid,
but you know, don't start with paid webinars. That's a whole other thing. But you know, I built Feel Good on paid workshops, and I did the same workshop like 50 times, and then that became a book. By the way, that became this book. Cool. So tell me about this book that you wrote. Is it going to be out soon? Can we promote it on this right now?
Yeah, I was actually. I've got the KDP file ready to go. The cover is ready to go. I was hoping actually I'd have it up by now. It's called Virtually Irresistible. It's the MSP's Guide to Webinars. It's a big lady's lips on the front of the cover. And it's literally all of the steps that I've been through over the last 2 years into our process that you can use in your managed IT services. So it goes over all the different aspects of it. And the bonus chapter, it's got a point about you in there. You've got a little note in there, Brian, with all your tips that you've probably already given in this conversation today.
I don't remember what I said, so I'm sure it was really great. But when are you going to have it out? Because this podcast won't air for a couple months.
Well, that's even better. So it's going to be out like next week. So I'll be out by Friday next week. So
well, then let's clean this up. Hey, Jeremiah or Christina, whoever's editing this, let's clean this up a little bit, and we'll plug as if the book is out. And I'll just punch back in here and say, Scott, tell me about this book. I think you have a book that just came out or is about to come out about webinars. Tell me about it a little bit.
Yeah, so the book is called Virtually Irresistible, the MSP Guide for Webinars. Big lady's lips on the front of it. You can't miss it. And it's about the process that I've been through myself and with my clients. They're all managed IT service providers. Last 2 years running webinars, all of the lessons that we've learned, all of the mistakes we've made, those zero attendees, the LinkedIn posts that went nowhere. How the heck do you advertise Meta to get business owners and decision makers? And then more importantly, what topics and how do you structure a webinar, and what exactly do you offer in a webinar as a managed IT service provider? What's going to open that door for you and get that first intro meeting in the diary? So that process, and there's a bonus chapter, a little note from you, Brian, on it. I went through all the MSP experts, and they've shared all their brilliant knowledge. All the guys were already mentioned here today is in that book. So yeah, Virtually Irresistible. You can get it in all good bookstores. And the domain name virtuallyirresistible.com will forward to the Amazon listing as well.
I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm going to read this whole thing cover to cover. And Virtually Irresistible, that was your nickname in high school, wasn't it, Scott?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that was my nickname.
Yeah, quite the opposite. It was your nickname.
Right. That was the name of my one-man play. Man, Scott, I think we covered so much. I wish we could keep going and going, but all of the other juicy deets are going to be in that book. I'm going to put the link to that book in the show notes for this episode. You've done me a huge solid. We've been on for over an hour together. Thank you so much. And you know, if anybody wants to the book, that'll be there. But then if anybody wants to just get in contact with you directly, any advice for how they do that?
Yeah, well, you can join my free school group. It's school.com/MSP. You can get me in there. You can DM me there, and you can check out. We've got a little course there, a free course called The Power Audience. It's all about webinars.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. You brought a lot to the podcast, Scott. Appreciate it.
It's been awesome being on here. Love it. Like, I feel privileged to be on here.
Good. Never forget it. Just never forget you owe me one. No, just kidding. Thanks again, buddy. You're the best.
Yeah.